Mazel tov on your daughter's degree, her first doctorate. You know, there are lots more that she could have. It's a pleasure to be with you all. It's always a pleasure to be here. This is a very special place. As someone who has been a friend of Rabbi Krug's for about 40 years, I hope you know who you have as a friend and a guide and a sustaining friend who will stay with you beyond your years here, and I hope you take full advantage of it. I also have to tell you, when I first, it's really a pleasure to be with you, gentlemen. Share a few words with you. When I first became president of Yeshiva University, before that I had spent 15 years being the international president of the Hillel Foundation, building the competition. And when I became president, I spent about 5 months getting ready for the presidency. I tell the story whenever I'm here, I think. And the way we worked it, my wife and I and our children lived in Silver Spring, Maryland, but for the 5 months of the interregnum, for 2 or 3 nights a week, I would be up at YU, and I asked if I could stay in the dorm. So when they finished laughing, they gave me an apartment in the dorm, and I'd be there early on one night, a little after 11 o'clock. I was getting ready to go to sleep, and there's a knock on the door. And I open the door, and this interesting gentleman walks in, says to me, "I am Aaron Bina." I said, "Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi Bina." I'd never met him before. I said, "Please come in." He says, "I have to talk to you." He said, "You have a very important place, but you have a lot of work to do. Because it's not warm enough, you have to love the boys." Now, I was awake enough to actually hear that. And we talked a little bit, and he left. And frankly, I was very moved that you had someone who was a major force on the education of young people during the continuum between high school and moving on, whose concern was that when you would continue, he didn't just come to say, make sure the learning is good. And he didn't just come to say, you know, what's kind of, can you help them out financially? He had only one concern, which is how do we make sure that there's enough warmkeit, that there's enough warmth, so that you get to grow, because we don't grow in the cold, despite this morning. We have to be nurtured by some warmth. And I think that's probably the hallmark of Netiv Aryeh. It's certainly the signature of Rav Bina, and I think more and more it's the definition of Yeshiva University. I also just want to say that what you have here is special. And I just really want to urge you for the next 6 months or the next 18 months, whatever your choices are here, that you own this, that you really take it in, that you open yourself enough to grow both in terms of learning, that you never take for granted where you are, both metaphysically and physically, and that you open yourself up to both ask. This is a good place for you to ask questions about who you are, what kind of a people you're a part of, what you want to do, and how you need to grow. Because, gentlemen, in a confused and difficult time, I have to say, you get to reach for it all. You get to reach for it all. The real challenge is determining that you can reach, and the other challenge is determining what it all is. So I want to talk to you just a little bit about that. As Rav Bina said, Mr. Kranzler, who's our Dean of Admissions, will be here from breakfast on for most of the day to talk to you about individual issues. I'm really happy to talk to you about Yeshiva University. You've probably heard about it 9,000 times. So rather, let me just talk to you from the heart of Yeshiva University. And if there are any questions, or there's time for questions, or you can speak to me personally. And let me just certainly say to you as that I hope that I'll have the zechus of having you as my students, and it's something I would like. You develop all kinds of talents. I can certainly assure you that some of you will even be Maccabees when you grow up. My yichus in life is I'm a recovering lawyer. I'm trained as an attorney. I was a prosecutor in New York. I was an assistant district attorney. Then I was a law professor. I was teaching legal ethics to prove that I had a sense of humor. Then I was recruited both to run Hillel, and now I have the zechus to be in my 8th year as president of Yeshiva University. During that time, I had the privilege of getting to know a lot of people and touching a lot of them and being of influence to a lot. One of the high points of my life was when our a cappella group, the Maccabees, decided to make their album and their video. They asked me if I'd be included on it. It's because they loved my my voice and my harmonies, and because I helped finance their CD. If you ever see cut 8 in the middle of it, there's a nice little thing. So I was pretty proud of myself until they dumped me this fall for my son Nachum, who was a latecomer to this. And Nachum and his friends, in a few weeks on YouTube, right, have touched more people than I will in 17 lifetimes. What that means is, first of all, I'm proud of my kid. But more than that, it means you have the capacity to stretch your influence. Whatever you want to do, you're living in a world where technology and the new capabilities can either make you slaves to them, or in fact can give you the capacity to reach further and deeper and more broadly than you ever could. These are the years. You're here not because you wanted to park yourself. You're here because you wanted to come somewhere where you would be provoked, where you would learn Torah, where you'd learn Torah skills, where you'd give yourself that wonderful time where you can devote yourself exclusively to yourself and to yourself in the plural, but not in a selfish way, in a growing way. And you know that this is a place where you get to learn Torah, you get to think about your life, right? And you have incredible Rabbeim around you who are invested in you. So that's the ad for Netiv Aryeh. I don't know if you heard the news, but the Disney Corporation has made a decision to build a new Disney World in Haifa. Right? There's not enough fantasy in the land of Israel, so Disney is going to build a Disneyland in Haifa, which is very nice. And it reminded me of a story I heard when Disney World was constructed in Orlando, Florida. When Disney World was constructed at the very beginning, Roy Disney hosted a group of executives to show off Disney World. And at a certain point in the tour, one of the executives turned to Roy Disney and said, "You know, it's really a pity that your brother, Walt Disney, didn't live to see this." And Roy Disney turned to him and said, "You're wrong. He did see it. That's why it's here." The capacity of all of us and each of us to develop a vision for life and to make that vision happen is one of the great gifts that the Ribono Shel Olam has given us. And how you fuel yourself for that vision is really important. So what's our vision, gentlemen? What's our individual and collective vision? There's a new book that's out that was written by one of the public opinion survey experts in the United States, a Jewish fellow named Frank Luntz. You can often see him if you watch Fox News. He does a lot of these political survey research information. And he wrote a new book called What Americans Really Want. And in that book, he records that he's done research surveys of all Americans trying to determine what they want most. So he has a section that says, what are the 5 things that Americans want most? Right? What are the 5 things? So, I mean, you could help me with this, unless you've heard me say it before. What do you think the 5 things are? You can name one of them. What do Americans want most? Audience, raise your hand so that we don't all say that. Yes. That was scary that you all said money together, but that's okay. Money. Okay, what else? Yes, sir.
Lust. Certain different lusts.
Lusts.
Yeah.
It's too early in the morning for me to start at Netiv Aryeh. Very nice. Lusts. Yes. Family. Money, lusts, and family. Good. We're in a good path here. Yes. Less haha. You heard me already, you phony. Yes, sir. You're stretching? Okay, Americans want to stretch more. Anything else? Food. Instant gratification. Okay. One person today said lust and instant gratification. We want to see if you can reach out to him. It's not too late. Not to learn from him, to be of influence. It's very good. All right, here they are. The survey says, what are the 5 things that Americans want most? Number 1, no, not money. More money. More money. Not, hear this carefully. They didn't say, I want a lot of money. What do they want most? They want more money. Number 1. Number 2, they want fewer hassles. Number 3, they want more time. Number 4, they want more options. And number 5, they want no worries. No worries. More money, fewer hassles, more time, more options, and no worries. I have to tell you, they want other things too, and all the things you mentioned were part of that list. But the big five were these, and I don't want to condemn them. When you think about the lives we're living, right, these are things that are pretty normal to think about. Sometimes you think there's just too much going on, you're overwhelmed. It's a time of some struggle, although if you look through history, this is hardly what you'd call a time of struggle, but certainly relative to the times. And people want a break. So they didn't say, we want to be rich. They said, we want more money. It's hard. We want more money. We want fewer hassles. He uses an example. Have you ever recently gone out to buy a scissor in America? So it's not like you get a scissor and you open a bag and here's your scissor. It comes in a hard plastic container, right? You try to peel it, you try to bang it against you can't get to the scissor. Sometimes you come, if you're really smart like me, try to bite the plastic to do it, right? It's like you need to bring in a team of specialists to help you figure out. And someone will say, well, you have to open the plastic with a scissor. So, well, if I had a scissor, I wouldn't have to go buy a scissor. How do you, fewer hassles. Everything's a hassle. Everything's tough. More time. Everybody wants I just want some more time. I want some more time, and I want more options. I want there to be choices for me as to what to do. And then finally, wouldn't it be nice? No worries. So I appreciate that. I just want to know if that's our vision. And I just want to know if you think that's enough. I mean, it's enough if you just want to be put in a box somewhere and say, have some relief. But is that what each of you say, boy, if my life had more money, fewer hassles, more time, more options, no worries, I'd be fine. I hope not. I hope we're about more than that. I don't think the Ribbon Shalom Kavayachal sits up on the Kisei HaKavod and says, just less hassles, these humans. I mean, I'd say it, but that's not what he wants. So is it enough of a vision? So I think you want your life to be something more than just long. And I think you're here to figure it out. And I think I came after a week when yesterday's Parsha is the poster child for all that we're talking about. So one little section that you read, and no doubt you've thought about, right? Kosomar leveis Yaakov v'sagid levnei Yisrael. Right? Atem re'isem asher asisi l'Mitzrayim. You saw what I did to Egypt. V'asoaschem al kanfei nesharim. And I took you out on the wings of eagles. On the wings of eagles. V'aviyaschem elai, and I brought you to me. You see that Hashem can take you up on his wings and take you up into the sky and show you how to soar. How do you do it? Then comes to me the sentence that is the grand deal that God makes with us. It's the grand covenant. This is what makes us special, you'll forgive me, is nothing genetic, right? It's nothing nurturing, etc., etc. I'll tell you what makes us special, is that we're a covenantal people. That we made a deal. That we made a deal, and each generation strives to keep that deal. What's the deal? The atah. And now, im shomoa tishma'u b'koli. If you listen to my voice, ushmartem es brisi, and you follow my covenant, v'hayisem li segula mikol amim, and you make yourself chosen to me among all the nations, not being the chosen people, but be the choosing people. Choose me. Kili kol haaretz, because the whole world is mine. If you do that, what's the deal? What's your piece of it? V'atem tiyu li mamleches kohanim v'goy kadosh. Then you get to be a kingdom of priests and a noble nation. You get to live in such a way that first of all you embody all the values and you have a good life that goes beyond those 5 things. But you also get to be the poster child for the world. You get to be the kind of people that can work with the Ribbon Shalom and other good people to move civilization forward, to create, to build, to grow. That's what we get to be. We get to have a covenantal partnership. That's the bargain, gentlemen. So I have a friend. Some of you might have heard this story. I have a friend named Joseph McShane, Father Joseph McShane. He's a Jesuit priest, and he's the president of Fordham University. And we've become good friends because we, share the misery of presidencies. We also share the splendor of presidencies. But Joe is a Jesuit who loves Jews. He thinks all Jews are Orthodox. I haven't told him yet. It's not. But what he really likes is kosher food. So 3 or 4 times a year, we go to different kosher restaurants that he enjoys it very much. And once he asked if we could go out for dinners as well. And I told him that I don't know about him, but I have family obligations. He's a little freer than that. So once I invited him to YU for lunch, to be my guest. He was excited to come. He came to YU, we had lunch, and he turned to me and said, Richard, I have a favor. I would love to see your base medrash. I'd love to see your base medrash, in those words. And those days we had the main base medrash was in the same building as MTA. And I said, it would be my pleasure. I said, usually you have to be a cardinal to get to the base medrash, but we'll make an exception. And we walked across the street and down the street and went into the base medrash. He had the reaction. He spoke to a few of the students, and I asked them to say what they were learning. I introduced them to a few rabbeim. And when he came out, he had the reaction that most people who aren't so familiar with the base medrash that they don't notice it. He was in tears. He was in tears because he saw something sacred. He saw young people in dialogue with each other and in conversation that spanned the millennium, that they were talking to the Rambam, that they were both connecting with the past and preparing for the future. And a lot of people don't do that. They live in the now, and the now passes quickly. So it was very moving to me to see him so moved. As we walked out of the building, there was a bench there, and I saw 4 young guys who clearly were 9th graders at MTA, and they looked even more unhappy than you could imagine. And I looked at them, I said, you guys okay? They said, no, we missed our bus. I said, where are you from? They said, Holliswood, Jamaica Estates, Hillcrest. I hope no one here is one of those 4 guys. Anybody here remember being one of those guys? It was a few years ago. I said, can I help you? They said, no, we're taking care of it. So I figured it was a great moment. They said, hi, my name is Richard Joel. I'm president of Yeshiva University. I work for you. They look at me like a Martian that kind of landed. It's not what they want to hear. I turned to Father McShane, guy with a priest thing. I said, and this is Father McShane, who's the president of Fordham University. Now they think they're about to be punished for something. He looks at them and he says, Shalom! They look at me longingly. I said, say something, Shalom. He says to them, do you speak Hebrew? Again, they're looking at me. I said, please answer, President McShane. They say, yes, King. Then he looks and he smiles. He says, biblical or modern? Now they're saying, why didn't we go to TABC? What are we doing here? How could this possibly be? And I decided that Rahmanas, I said, Mr. President, we have to leave. Let's go. Take care, guys. And we start walking away. And I felt pretty good. We got about 30 feet. And Father McShane stops and says, Richard, I forgot something very important. I have to go back. And he walks back to the guys who thought they had escaped. Right? And he looked at them and he says, boys, he says, I have something very important to tell you. You have to listen to me. So listen, he says, you must keep the covenant alive. He says, you must keep the covenant alive. And don't miss the bus again. And he walked away. And now I was in tears. Because sometimes it takes someone from the outside, ein navi be'iro, takes someone from the outside to say the obvious. At the end of the day, at the beginning of the day, from our tefillot through all that we do, we are here to keep the covenant alive and in that way sustain ourselves and sustain the world. By partnering with the Ribbonei Shalom, by partnering with the Ribbonei Shalom, right, we get to keep it alive. It's interesting. Last time I was here, Rav Bina was talking about his very strong feelings that we don't go up on Har HaBayis. Okay, that we just don't do it. I don't know if you've ever heard Rav Bina sounding forceful, but he was kind of forceful about it. And it reminded me, interestingly, we learned today, so we just read about Ma'amad Har Sinai, and you know about the Kedusha of Har Sinai, but you also know that the Kedusha of Har Sinai is temporary. It's temporary. When the Ribbonei Shalom was on Har Sinai, when they're Kolos and Brakim, and he gave Moshe Aseres HaDibros, it was Makam Kodesh, and you couldn't walk there. When he left, when it was over, no more Kedusha. If we find Har Sinai, you can walk on Har Sinai, no problem. No problem. Har HaBayis, even though it's a ruin, it's not the Beis HaMikdash. Har HaMoriah, the Kedusha is forever. So the Mefarshim ask why? Har Sinai, we received the Torah in Har Sinai, the Kedusha doesn't linger. Right? Har HaBayis, it's always. The answer is, at Har Sinai, what happened? The Ribbonei Shalom gave us a gift. It was his action. On Moriah, it's a partnership. It was built by man together with God. And when man and God, when humans and God collaborate, when they work in partnership, the Kedusha is eternal. Your lives, gentlemen, your lives are about how you build an eternal Kedusha. You are at a point where you're dreaming dreams, you're starting to fulfill them. The next few years are going to be extraordinary years. Extraordinary years. So look beyond the 5 things that Americans want, because they also need you to point them into how to want more. And that shutfus with the Ribono Shel Olam, that ability not just to learn Torah and say, here I am learning Torah. Rav Teitz once said, the goal is to learn Torah, to love Torah, and to live Torah. Right? The notion of building your lives in this incredible community is very important. Now, we don't live our lives sitting in Yeshivas Netiv Aryeh. In fact, we're not supposed to. This is part of a launching pad. This isn't a launching pad that's a modest one, frankly. This is one that says, you are special and you get to have it all. You get to reach for it all. And that's why Rav Bina will always tell you, you move on from this place, but you're Malin B'Kodesh. It's not, boy, I had this great time in Israel and now I have to settle for life. I have to go on and life is B'di'evet. It's not B'di'evet. You get to take all that you are, the relationships you've built, the Torah that you've learned, the skills you've acquired, the thoughtfulness about yourself, and say, how do I now partner with the Ribono Shel Olam, with Klal Yisrael, and with people of goodwill, to have a life that's full, that's joyous, with love, with opportunity, with reaching for a vision and making it come true? The whole answer is not Yeshiva University. An important first answer is to continue this growth path in a place where you're not choosing one or another, but where you get to reach for it all and decide how that package works for you. The package of active Torah involvement, active chesed, academic excellence, a network that's going to keep you alive personally and professionally for your whole life, opportunities to do service learning and acts of chesed and leadership, and NCAA teams, Division III. But if any of you are ready for a Division I school to be in varsity, we can talk about getting you private tutors there. 16 Division III teams, newspapers to write, Israel advocacy to engage in, philosophy to think about. You deserve that next step. That's the next step where, please God, you'll find your other best friend in the world who you can partner with. The answer is, now's not the time for you to settle. Don't look at the 5 things that Americans want. Say, yeah, I guess that's what I need. Now's the time to reach. Now's the time to reach from this place at this mountain to say, how do I take that with me and launch myself forward? That's the job. Life is lechatchila, it's not b'di'evet. And please God, you'll have that chance. And I look forward to it. When I was in Washington, working for Hillel, my oldest son Avery, who now is a Rebbe and the dean of students at the Fuchs Mizrahi School in Cleveland, was in the Hebrew Academy of Greater Washington, and he was a basketball star. And they were part of a league. There wasn't a yeshiva league in Washington because that would have been 2 schools. But they played other private schools. And one of the schools that they played was the high school I think it's called the Model School, which is the high school of Gallaudet University. Gallaudet University is a school for the deaf and the hard of hearing. It's a special place. And I would like going when Avery's team would go play Gallaudet because they'd always lose. Because while my kids thought they were so smart, the team from Gallaudet had all these kind of hand signals that they could use to fool my son's team. So it was nice to see a humbling experience for my son and his fellow stars. But what I really liked about going there is that in the lobby of the school is a model of a little red schoolhouse. And on that model there's a plaque with a quote that's unattributed. But I know it's a profoundly Jewish quote. It says, there are only 2 lasting gifts that we can hope to bequeath to our children. One of them is roots, and the other is wings. Okay? Roots and wings. Your parents have invested their lives trying to plant those roots and model for you wings. You are here in this place where the roots are getting deeper and you're fortifying them through your learning, but at the same time, you're learning that there are wings here that you fly. This is the week where we say that Hashem took us out al kanfei nesharim, right? As the journey goes on, all that can matter and that can make you do all is to deepen those roots and spread those wings. Thank you very much.